Before we get started, please subscribe to this channel. You also can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you're looking to become a member of the DW Pod, you can look for Dr. Williams' podcast on Patreon, where you will find 3 different tiers of membership benefits. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, you can go to my website, www.drwilliamspodcast.com, or you can check out www.nrtrc.org to find a telehealth provider. Look in Sequim, Washington, because that's where I'm located, and you can set up a therapy session with me there. Okay, let's get into this conversation. Hey guys, I'm here with Monica Maria Aparicio. Monica Maria just did a astro-intuitive reading for me, and that's for the new podcast that I have in development. And I know I keep telling you guys about it, and I haven't put it out yet, but that's just to kind of whet your appetite. It is coming on down the way. It was awesome. She's awesome. She is a prosperity mentor. And today we are going to talk to her, and she's going to kind of give us some insight into what she does in her line of work. And we're going to talk about the psychology of prosperity, which is super exciting. I love it. Monica Maria, thank you for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I love talking all these topics. My favorite things to talk about.
Yeah. Can you just give everybody an overview of what you offer for clients?
So I work with mostly women, but not only spiritual entrepreneurs, people who are really here to support others in their own healing and development process. And so one of my gifts is really helping my clients see the bigger vision for their work, really seeing how their work is meant to serve on a much higher level. So part of that is helping them to really attract the people they're meant to be working with, knowing exactly how they're meant to serve them, how their work fits all together, their personal life experience, how does that fit in with their professional experience, how does it all come together to form something very unique as an offering, and that can be converted into services, into products. And so I love to mostly focus in on the use of occult wisdom, such as astrology. I love to also use breath work. I love to use plant medicine. I have a regression process that I developed myself that uses breath work as long with visualization and energy medicine to really help people, in essence, remember who they are.
Okay, I love that. Their true self, their higher self. Can you speak to what is this? What is the psychology of prosperity?
I've been really passionate about studying wealth consciousness since 2010. I stumbled along, I didn't know that that's what I was learning, but I've always been a, a student of life. I love to learn. And I came across a woman she was business coach, and she had on a guest. And the guest was talking about wealth consciousness. And when I heard this, I was like, what is that? So I basically started to read these very, very old books. There's one particular book called The Science of Getting Rich that was written in 1917 by a man named Wallace Wattles. And I realized, wow, getting rich is really so tied in, or it's the same thing as evolving spiritually. Like, in order to
Hmm.
fully evolve as a your spiritual essence to fully evolve, you have to also fully evolve the material aspect of yourself. And that to me was so interesting because I've been in the spiritual world for a long time, and I think that there's this idea that if you're spiritual, well then you shouldn't want money. And if you have a
Yeah.
spiritual business, right? I think at this point it's finally like flipped the other way around where it's like, well no, you should be a millionaire. But it was for a right? Like I see so many different coaches talking about, making millions with your spiritual work. But that's new. You know, it's really been the popular concept that if you're spiritual, if you're a healer, then you should give it away for free, and you certainly shouldn't want money, and money is evil, it's the root of all evil. So when I found this material, to me it was so refreshing because I've been in the spiritual world for a long time. My mother was a nun as a youth in Colombia. So I've always been raised with a lot of just connection to spirituality, and I found this to be fascinating. And so when I became an entrepreneur, in the process of really learning how to make money, learning how to reconcile those parts of myself that thought maybe it was wrong, I put together a program a couple of years ago. It was called Faith and Money, as I was deep in this process of really understanding actually they go hand in hand. And so I was doing some research, and I love etymology. I think that when you study etymology, you really get to understand the true nature of the world that we live in. And these days, most of our language has been so divorced from its origin, from its original intended use. When I went to look up the etymology of psychology, what I found was that psychology comes from psyche, which means soul. It doesn't mean the mind. And
Isn't
that to
that
me,
amazing? I just want to let that
right.
sink in for everybody right now. Like, that's mind blowing.
Recently, I thought, I've just been going through so many pivots and shifts. Before the work that I'm currently doing now, I was producing events in New York City, mostly for spiritual and wellness entrepreneurs. So they were always a combination of business and healing. Those are my two biggest
Mhm.
passions. And it just, one day, just, I heard the words psychology of prosperity, because I'm really here to support mostly spiritual entrepreneurs first with their own understanding of who they are, which requires it requires healing. It requires another layer of healing. And that's needed in order to really understand the depth of the service that you bring to the world, the depth of the value of your work, and also the depth of the value of your life experiences, like how much worth there is behind saying, "Yep, I lived through that, and that's why what I have to teach you is so valuable."
So, is that what you're saying when you mean the healing? You're talking about deep wounds from lifetimes of spirit in the spiritual nature?
So I don't do past life regression into other past lives. I It's the one of the cornerstone of my work, which is the soul remembrance process, does regress you in this lifetime to a point of origin where you had some kind of event happen that created a pattern in your life. And so that pattern shows up in
Okay.
your business. Yeah, it shows up across different areas. And the idea is that you see it from a different perspective so you can change the energy around it so that you shift your current experience of it.
Do you help people identify those things? Like this could be something that happened in childhood or growing up or something like that and you help them. Maybe they don't know, they don't have the awareness. Are you able to help them gain that knowledge?
Yes, that's definitely part of the work that I do. So I love to use the chakras. I think the chakra system is one, it's such an ancient system. It's super layered. There's so many different archetypes that we can find within the chakras. So that's one way that I do it, along with breath work, which is also a really powerful way to unlock memories that are being stored cellularly on a physical level that haven't, for some reason, like the mental consciousness about them isn't there, but it's physically stored. And I also really love plant medicine. Plant medicine has been, and it still is, a huge uh, part of my own healing and evolution process. And by that, I specifically mean ayahuasca.
My listeners don't know yet or I haven't spoke to it yet, but I had my first ayahuasca ceremony. It was a 2-night ceremony and it was very difficult actually. I had a really hard time with it. I was told by my shaman that it was my role in this life to clear out ancestral baggage, and it came on in the way of a migraine before the ceremony began. I was purging before the ceremony. It was very intense. And then the second night is when I had the transformation. And it was I can't even explain it to you. It was enlightening. It was really something. So, from your perspective, please speak to ayahuasca. Tell everybody what it is that you think is so helpful about it.
Well, so first I'll say that I sit in ceremony every single Saturday here in Colombia, and I assist my taita, my shaman. I've been sitting with him since 2015. My first experience was in the jungles of Peru in 2008, and I feel super blessed to have this medicine. It ayahuasca is known as the grandmother of all medicinal plants. That is the also known as moniker for it. And what I will say is that it's a different experience for every single human body. One, because we all have different sizes, weights, lifestyle, habits, diets. So that's number one. The healthier you are, the the easier it can be on your body physically. The second thing that can affect your experience greatly is the intention that you go into it with. You don't always throw up. You won't always purge. You won't always have visions, as we refer to them. So we're not hallucinating, we're visioning. So that doesn't always happen. Some people come to ceremony, they barely feel anything. What I will say is that one really important thing to do is to prepare your body for the experience. So like, if you're drinking heavy, or if you're even like maybe smoking pot recreationally, there's something in
Even
um
coffee, really.
yeah, alcohol for sure. Like if you have, even if you have like a beer the night before, that can throw off your body
Yeah.
chemistry and make you very sensitive. And every single so ayahuasca is that's it's the name given to the brew itself. The brew of the vine mixed with, depending on the tradition in which it's being prepared, the leaf that will have. I know that in the Amazon, it's the chacruna leaf that has the DMT component, which is what helps your pineal gland to open and vision. So it depends on the brew as well. Like every batch tastes different. There's not one batch that tastes the same. Sometimes it's more sweet,
Oh,
sometimes it's
interesting. I
bitter.
didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And it tasted awful, by the way. It was not a good taste, the one that I had.
Pretty
It was
strong.
like, oh gosh.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong taste, and I think that there's so much curiosity about it. It's definitely become way more mainstream than it did like back in 2008. It's
Sure.
become very commercialized, especially in Peru. So I would say for anybody that's curious about trying it, to really be very, do your homework, do your research. I actually am leading a retreat here in Colombia. It's a prosperity mastery retreat where I am going to be taking a group of 6 spiritual women entrepreneurs to go and sit in ceremony with me and my taita, as well as, we're going to be also be doing temazcal, which is sweat lodge, and lots of other really fun activities as well. But
Wow.
yeah,
That sounds really special. Do you have any openings left?
I do. I'm just starting to share it. It's depending on when this airs, it's happening November of
Okay.
2023. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if anybody's interested and it's within that timeline, then you can reach out to Monica Marie and see if you can get a spot. So I want to kind of tie this back into that whole wealth consciousness that you were talking about. What can the
Hmm.
ayahuasca do to break down those barriers? And because
Hmm.
I'm thinking wealth is one of those things that most people are chasing, and if they
Yeah.
don't have it in a monetary form, then there's some kind of block there that's creating it from that's limiting it from being allowed into their experience. Have you been considering one-on-one sessions with me? Well, if you have, I wanted to let you know that there's actually two ways to go about doing that. You can go the therapy route, or you can go the coaching route. I am a licensed mental health counselor here in the state of Washington, and I'm actually registered as a telehealth provider. So this is something that might even be covered with your insurance company. And what you can do is you can go to the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center, or NRTRC for short, and you can find me there in Sequim, Washington. Sequim. So if you're in Washington and you're looking to have therapy with a mental health counselor, you can work with me. And we can do that virtually. That's what telehealth is. It allows us to meet without having to be in person. So what you do is you go to www.nrtrc.org and search for behavioral health in Sequim, Washington. And you'll find Dr. Williams, LLC is there. And that's how you schedule with me for therapy sessions. If you're wanting coaching sessions, you just go to my website, www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Right on the home page, there's a button there that says Work with Dr. Williams, and it'll take you to my scheduling calendar where you can set up a free 15-minute consult so that we can talk about it and see if it feels like it would be a good fit for you. Even if you've done traditional therapy in the past or coaching sessions with someone else and you felt like it wasn't a good fit, I get that. But I encourage you to give me a chance because I do things a little bit differently, and I might be the fit that you've been looking for. So there's really nothing to lose. Set up the consult. We'll just have a chat and see how you feel about it. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I actually so I have it this will be ongoing. I have a masterclass called Plant Medicine and the Prosperity Codes of Nature. And one of the things that I'll say is, again, this is why I love the study of words. If we look at the word health and wealth, they're pretty much the same word except for the first letter, right? Like wealth
Yeah.
comes from health, it comes from well-being. When you having well-being is part of the experience of having wealth. And so one of the reasons why I love plant medicine, why I also love breath work, is its power to help you really tap into your own consciousness, to be able to understand yourself on a much deeper level, to understand, where am I not well? Is my spirit not well? Is there a part of my body that's not well? Is my past not well? Are my finances not well? Where am I not well? How can I shift that? And so it's really about connecting into, first, that awareness, and two, to coming back to basics. Coming back to giving yourself what you need in order to, one, relax your nervous system. That's why running a business is such a powerful personal growth and development program. It's the best one you can ever go through, because it really asks you to fully confront yourself and see yourself, see the truth of who you are, see, even the way that you hold boundaries with clients, and the way that you choose to price your offers, which has so much to do with creating prosperity, creating wealth in your life, having that understanding of the value that you bring and the worthiness that you have to charge what you're worth, to receive it, to hold it. To me, it really is a beautiful process of evolution, of understanding yourself as an infinite spiritual being that has access to that possibility of infinity in all areas, certainly in the area of finances as well. That would just, it's a side effect, it's a natural side effect of saying, hey, I know who I am, and I know how I serve, and I know the power of what I do.
I think a lot of people, if they think about it, they can pinpoint at least one thing that they have a lot of prosperity in, a lot of abundance. And it could be something simple. I was talking to somebody this week and she said, I have so many blankets. She's like, I don't know why, but blankets come to me. And I thought that you must not have any resistance where blankets are concerned. And as a creator, it has to come into your experience. But we don't always have that abundance, that wealth where we want it, like you're talking about with finances. And it's our own thoughts that are holding us back from opening up those floodgates to allow it in. where it can come as easily as a blanket.
Yes, and on a really basic level, sometimes we don't have the capacity to hold more wealth than what we have. And it's physical. It's our own nervous system being regulated enough to say, "Yep, I can have somebody can just call me up and be like, I want to work with you. Here's $50,000. I want to know that you're going to be my coach for the next 2 years. So I'm just going to prepay you." It could be that easy. It could be that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. But if in your mind you're like, my God, $50,000, that's like, I don't know. I don't know what I would do with that. Like, oh my God, I could pay, put a big percentage down for my home. I don't know. I'm not saying not to be excited, right? Like, I'm not saying don't be
Yeah.
excited. I'm just saying you have to get to a place where it just becomes like normal. Like, of course, like no big
Yes.
deal. Like, of course my work is worthy. I'm worthy. That's part of it. But the other part of it is just your body has to be relaxed enough and trusting enough. And that comes from the things that you do daily, like simple stuff that you do daily, whether it's taking time to journal, to meditate, to pray, to have fun, to play. It's that it's the experience of living life. Money likes that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you're bringing in this physical biology aspect of it. And that's kind of where the plant medicine comes in because this is a medicinal plant that you're putting into your body which does healing on all levels. Mental healing, spiritual healing, and biologically to clear out some of those things. I definitely felt different. The day after the second ceremony, I could breathe down into my stomach for what felt like the first time in my life. And
Mm.
it just changed me in all areas.
Yeah, that's why I say breath. For me, the two main tools, the two main healing tools that have totally changed my life have been breath work and plant medicine. And on a basic level, if somebody were to come to, plant medicine ceremony and didn't feel much, they still got a cleansing. Like it goes into your
Hmm.
bloodstream. It actually fuses with your DNA and it's forever then a part of you. It's an intelligence of nature that you then your body just receives, kind of like the brain has the cannabinoid receptors, like we're wired to receive CBD oil. We're wired to have that kind
Hmm.
of medicinal interaction with plants.
My shaman said something at, as part of the ceremony. He said, Mother Aya always gives you exactly what you need as quickly as you can handle it. And that really speaks to the individualized experience. Different people could be taking the same dose and their experience is completely different because it's a unique, personalized interaction.
Yes, and that's why I say the intention that you have is after your personal care and your diet and lifestyle, that's the second most important thing. Granted that you're sitting with someone who knows what they're doing and is responsible.
Hmm.
That's why I say do your
Yeah.
research and make sure that you feel really comfortable that this person has asked you about your habits, whether you've been on medication, whether you are on medication, have had
Hmm.
surgeries, have drinking, even for women, if you're on your menstrual cycle, important to know.
That actually came up with me. I was so close to having my menstrual cycle when the ceremony was there, and I set the intention for myself that that wouldn't happen until the day after the second ceremony, and it did that very morning. And I thought, I
Amazing.
am so powerful. Like in that moment, I felt so powerful that I had dictated what my body would do so that I could have that experience. But that was an intention. Intentions are very powerful. What's your advice for somebody in setting an intention? Like, how would you coach somebody on setting their
Hmm.
intention for that experience?
So I find sometimes people will go to ceremony. I've had conversations where they're like, well, I just want to understand this relationship. I want to understand what happened with so and so. Like, I want to understand why why this, why did this person do that? Make sure that whatever you're intending is truly focused on you. Help, I would always say, instead of wanting to understand why a relationship went a certain way, ask, what did this relationship have to teach me? What lessons are here for me? What do I need to understand to grow out of the result of interacting with this person, or as a result of this circumstance, being in this circumstance? So it's not show me how to become a millionaire, or, show me how to get my ex back, or, how do I sell my home? I think it's a process of going much deeper into wanting to be guided in the way that's going to really help you move forward in your life as a whole, versus just looking at one situation, but really asking for that guidance. Like, what is it that you need to understand better so that you can understand yourself?
You mentioned that you've developed some processes, and you mentioned an empathy map process. So before we finish out this episode, I was hoping you could talk about that and what that is.
So the empathy map is actually it's part of the Psychology of Prosperity video training, which is free. And it's actually, I adapted it from Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, which maybe many of your listeners might know about it, but it's what all of our movies and books are based on, because it speaks to the universal journey of being human. And so the empathy map is adapted from that process so that you can really learn to track your own life experience and how it led you into the desire to support other people. So it's specifically meant for people who have a business, or want to start a business, or maybe are in pivoting from in their business, so that way they can have clarity about, how did they even arrive here? Because I think it's easy to feel lost on this
Yeah.
journey, for sure. If not once, many times. I know certainly for me, that's been the case. And so it gives you that clarity. And as the name suggests, it's the empathy map. It really reminds you, one, why you're doing something, and two, who you're here to serve and how they can relate to you. It's meant so that you can empathize with your client, with the person that you're here to be serving. And so it's a very, very great tool if you're feeling a little lost around, I'm not really sure what to do next. It's a great
Yeah.
tool to get more clarity about that.
I love that. I'm going to check that out for sure. All right. Well, I want to tell the audience how they can get in contact with you. I know you have a special offer just for the Dr. Williams podcast listeners. So if you could tell people what that is, and if you're on social media, if you have a website, all the ways that people can reach out and work with you.
Yes. So my website is psychologyofprosperity.com. If you want to go get the free training, it's /free training. And you can find me on Instagram at also the Psychology of Prosperity. I have a Facebook group as well that you can link to from my website as well. And the offer for your listeners is an Astro Intuitive. It's a 50-minute Astro Intuitive reading where we do look at your astrological natal chart, and specifically to see, what is your life purpose? How are you meant to express your life purpose? Who are you meant to serve? How are you meant to serve them? If you're wanting to have more clarity about your purpose, or even more clarity about the current business that you have, as I mentioned, if you're in some kind of pivot, super helpful. So I have a special offering just for your listeners, which I'll share the link so you can get that over to them.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes along with your website. So make it easy on everybody to find you. This was an amazing conversation. I feel so grateful to know you, and thank you for sharing who you are with my listeners. And I look forward to all the ways that I might collaborate with you in the future. Thank you, Monica Maria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. Thank you. I've enjoyed being your guest. Thank you.
If you like being able to watch the podcast, make sure to let me know by subscribing to this channel.